All right, in our first training video where we jump into DNN and how to work inside of the content management system, I wanted to begin by just showing a little bit of the views that DNN has had over the years. This serves a little bit as history, but also, depending on the version of the system that you're running, you may see several different kinds of these same elements or these same screen items, and they all function the same way. There are very few new functions and administration tasks necessary that weren't necessary 5 years ago. So what you'll find as you go through different DNN versions is that those control panels and same screens have just grown up over time, and they look different, but if you find yourself in an older version or a different version than you're accustomed to, you just go looking for the same types of things, and you'll find those same actions. So I thought I'd just begin by just showing a couple of screens of different DNN versions over time. We have older DNN versions we can go to, but we can at least begin by showing off DNN 4, in which the control panel across the top of the site looked like this. It had an expand and collapse so that it could get smaller, and there was a view and an edit mode that you could jump in and out of. But if you see this kind of older structure of control panel at the top of the site, without even going to the host settings, you know for sure you are in DNN 4.5. Same thing if you are in DNN 5. The control panel changed its look and structure. It still had an expand and collapse type of action so that it could get smaller. But at this point in time, it had these different tabs that let you see some of the most common things you needed to do. And you'll see that style of presentation of control panels go throughout different versions of DNN. So you might have your common tasks like creating a new page or adding a module to this page or editing the page that you're on, changing its name or its theme and putting it in different places. When we move to, this is DNN 5. When we move to DNN 6, we see, again, another control panel. This one doesn't have an expand and collapse kind of structure. It's thin and gray, and instead has kind of mega menus that drop down and give you some of those same types of functions that you would have seen in the previous versions, as well as some new functions that were released or displayed here. Once we get up to DNN 7 and DNN 8, you'll find that at the moment the control panel structure has stabilized. It hasn't changed after 7 and 8. So when you get into the control panel and you see this black ribbon bar, you see these expand and collapse sections giving you your menu for these admin and host level tasks. They're going to be the same across DNN 7, and at that point you know you're in good shape to to do the different things regardless of what version you're on, because it's going to look and function mostly the same. Same thing exists with the different items that you see on a page and the ability for you to edit and click on different items. And so when we get into editing the page and working with the core HTML module, you'll see how those things look different over time. So they started out as triangles with drop-down menus. They later became, in the 5 they were still triangles, but by 6 they became these buttons that would hover and highlight and show up. And by the time you get into 7 and 8, they are pencil and gear icons that are there all the time. So again, main point of this short video is to mention that regardless of which DNN your version that you're logging into, some things may be different about the control panels, but many things are going to be the same. So to that point, let's move on and talk about being logged in, some of the things to expect when you're logged in as an administrator or an editor to go in and make edits and changes on a site, and the ways that you go about doing those. In the next training video after this, we'll jump into the first module, the HTML module, and talk about how you work with that, because once you've mastered it, you've mastered 70–80% of the content that you want to edit in most sites. But just to talk about browsing around and moving around inside the website, once you are logged in, it's a good thing to mention that as the website structure is concerned, .NET Nuke is a browse-to-edit website system. So when you log into a website, if you want to make a change on the About Us page, you go to the About Us page. If you want to make a change on the Contact Us page, you browse to the Contact Us page. So different from other kinds of CMS systems where there's inherently a back end that's different than the front end, .NET Nuke has them all together because it's structured as a browse to edit type of website system. So when you browse to specific pages, notice that I am logged in myself at the moment as a host level user, so I have not only the administrator tab, but I have other tabs that allow me to do even more functions. But I am already in edit mode. And so one of the first things I want to mention about logging in as an administrator is, especially in DNN 7 and in DNN 8, you can be, by starting off, not in edit mode. So you'll see that you're looking at the page. There are no icons allowing you to make edits and changes. So your first thing that you're going to want to do is put yourself into edit mode. You can either edit just this page, or myself, what I like to do is click to stay in edit mode. Because if I'm logging in to make changes, I want to do those across the board and browse to pages and make edits. Once you put yourself in edit mode, notice that you now see the pencil and gear type icons, which allow you to make further edits on a page. We'll get further in depth in this in the next training video, but just again, if it wasn't completely clear, you have those same similar types of things in older versions of the site system, but they were going to look different than they look today. So you'll have pencil icons that are giving you your ability to get into those, whether those show up underneath of triangles or hover buttons. It's the same type of thing. You browse to the page you want to make an edit, and you jump in and start making an edit.